living in the US for a few years, kind of get the sense of so much Russophobic, so much hatred of. I mean, for me, as coming from Asian country, Middle Eastern country, Russia seems to be white Christians. Why is there so much animosity against Russia? Is this just the lust of mineral wealth that Russia has, or is just the kind of Russia's military prowess? What do you think is the root cause of this hatred of Russia, both in the US and in also?
Yeah, it's irrational. There's no rational reason. It'd be one thing if, so with the collapse of the Soviet Union, if Russia had started in the 1990s to start building up an army and then started attacking neighboring countries. But it didn't do that. And despite the fact that Russia was not rearming itself and building an increased offensive capability, nonetheless, under Bill Clinton, decided to ignore Russia's pleas to join NATO first and then not to increase NATO. Clinton signed off on expanding NATO, which creates a threat for Russia, which is going to evoke a response. The second thing that happened was with the collapse of the Soviet Union, basically 7 gangster clans in Russia took control of most of the natural resources, the gold, the oil, the natural gas, the uranium, really critical sectors. Well, they had partners overseas. They had partners in Western banks. The 7 gangsters, oligarchs, there were oligarchs in the United States, in the United Kingdom, who were benefiting from this. When Vladimir Putin took office, I believe it was in January of 1999, and then was later certified as president. In 2001, 2002, I forget, I need to remember the precise date. He brought in all the Russian oligarchs, and basically, the majority of them were Jewish. Let's not pretend that they were, all Orthodox Christian. They weren't. The majority of them were Jewish, and the majority of their partners overseas were Jewish. So it fed into this, this theme that the Jews control the world kind of thing. But Putin laid it out to him very clearly. He said, "Look, you're going to stop raping Russia. This pillaging is going to stop. We're going to, if you want to stay here in this country and continue to make money, that's great. These foreign relationships where you're just stealing our resources, that's coming to an end. And you're going to stay out of politics. If you can abide by those terms, we'll leave you alone. If you can't, I'm going to put you in prison." So he ended up putting a few in prison, such as Mikhail Khodorkovsky. But it brought an end to that looting, and it brought an end to Westerners being able to control the economic resources in Russia. They still were trying to exert influence. They were going away quietly. But that's what started this hatred of Putin. Putin then stood, he was the first country to contact the United States in the aftermath of the attacks on September 11th in 2001, offering Russian assistance. But I think as he came to discover that the Islamic war being waged by the Chechens, again, drawing upon the theological writings out of the Deobandi movement and the Salafist movement and the Wahhabi movement in Saudi Arabia and the whole Muslim brothers that emerged out of Egypt, he found out that the United States was supporting those very groups that were attacking and killing Russians in massive numbers. And so he embarked upon a pushback against that attack. And then he kept rejecting the U.S. efforts to bring Ukraine and Georgia into NATO. But what's fascinating is at no time, the United States cites, he invaded Georgia in 2008. It was provoked. Georgia attacked Russia, not vice versa. It's just an objective fact. And yet, despite that objective fact, the West continues to try to paint Russia as the aggressor. But what I'm trying to say, to make it real simple, there are no actions that Russia has taken that justify the vilification of Russia as an international threat that needs to be contained. Russia is not the country that has over 700 military bases around the world. That's the United States. Russia, since the fall of the Soviet Union, has not been out invading other countries. The only country they will say is, quote, invaded was Ukraine, and that's been a civil war underway, and I think you can make a very compelling case that Russia was attacked first, not vice versa. But to take that out, Russia hasn't been Russia didn't attack Iraq twice. Russia didn't attack Panama. Russia didn't attack Libya. Russia didn't attack Serbia. Russia didn't attack Syria. We go on down the list. That the United States has been, endlessly involved in wars that have killed millions of foreign citizens of these foreign countries. Literally millions. And it's not just some recent phenomenon. It goes back to Vietnam. So the country that's the imperialist, the country that threatens world peace, it's not Russia, it's not China, it's the United States. And we see it again today. The United States is arming and enabling the government of Israel to murder Palestinian men, women, and children, especially women and children. Estimated 17,000 children have been murdered with the United States support. So, I think people of conscience around the world are starting to wake up and going, we got to stop them. These people can't continue doing this. This is evil. This is wrong.